Her ex mocked her in public. Then a millionaire walked up and kissed her like she was his. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let us get back to our main character. The ballroom shimmered under hundreds of crystal lights, the sound of champagne glasses clinking like tiny bells. Women in silver gowns laughed softly near the buffet. Men in tailored suits talked business over the piano music. In the middle of that luxury stood Lena Carter, her modest navy blue dress slightly wrinkled from the taxi ride, her palms damp around the stack of event brochures she had printed herself. It was her first big contract since she started freelancing again. The Foundation's gala was supposed to be her comeback, a quiet victory after months of scraping for rent and hospital bills. She just had to stay professional, smile, hand out brochures, and disappear before anyone recognized her. But fate has a cruel sense of humor. Across the ballroom she saw him, Ethan Blake, her ex-fiancé. His expensive smile had not changed, nor had the arrogance behind it. He was surrounded by board members, drink in hand, speaking too loudly as always. She froze, praying he would not notice her. But he did. Of course he did. Well, look who we have here, Ethan's voice sliced through the music. People turned. Lena Carter, still working the events, huh? Guess not everyone leaves a company on good terms. Lena's face burned. I am here professionally, Ethan. Please don't. Oh, come on, he interrupted, grinning at the crowd. Don't be shy. You used to dream about nights like this, remember, standing beside me, not serving hors d'oeuvre. Laughter rippled. Someone whispered. Her throat tightened, but she forced herself to stay calm. Enjoy your evening, she said softly, turning to walk away. Ethan reached out, blocking her path. Tell me something, Lena. Still chasing fairy tales? You could have had all this, he gestured at the glittering room, if you hadn't walked away. She wanted to disappear. Every eye in the room seemed to pierce her. The sound of the orchestra faded until all she could hear was her own pulse, quick and panicked. Then a voice cut through the tension. Deep, steady, calm. That's enough. The crowd fell silent. A tall man stepped forward from the shadows near the bar. His tuxedo fit like it had been crafted, just for him, the crisp white collar glowing under the chandeliers. His eyes, sharp and quiet, locked onto Ethan with the authority of someone used to being obeyed. Before anyone could react, he crossed the space between them. He stopped beside Lena, his presence radiating a strange, quiet power. Then, without a word, he placed a gentle hand on her waist, turned her toward him, and kissed her. It was not rough. It was not staged. It was the kind of kiss that silenced an entire room. The clinking glasses stopped. The whispering died. Cameras froze midair. Ethan's smirk collapsed into disbelief. When the man finally pulled back, his voice was calm, almost polite. Now he said, still looking at Ethan, you may continue your conversation without her. Lena could barely breathe. Her heart pounded like a drum inside her chest. Who was this man? The stranger looked at her, eyes softening for a second. Are you all right? She nodded faintly, words lost in her throat. He gave a small, reassuring smile before turning toward the exit. People parted silently as he passed, leaving behind a trail of stunned faces and a rumor that would spread before the night ended. And as Lena stood there trembling, one thought echoed in her mind. She had just been rescued by a man she had never met. A man who she would soon discover was far more than he appeared to be. The next morning the city felt quieter than usual, or maybe it was just Lena's heart that could not stop replaying what had happened. The kiss, the silence, the man who had stepped in like a storm and disappeared before she could even ask his name. She stood in front of her small apartment window, coffee cooling in her hands, still wearing the same navy dress she had folded over a chair the night before. On her phone, a dozen notifications blinked, messages from coworkers, a few from people she barely knew. Who was that guy? Did you plan it? The internet is talking about it. Her stomach twisted. Someone had recorded the scene. It was now everywhere online. Gala guest humiliated, rescued by mystery man. Lena shut her phone off and sank onto the couch. She could not afford this kind of attention. The last thing she wanted was to be a viral clip in someone's gossip feed. By afternoon she had forced herself to focus. She had a meeting at a small coffee shop downtown, a potential freelance client who had emailed her weeks ago about a charity brochure. She fixed her hair, touched up the faint smudge of makeup, and told herself to forget the man in the tuxedo. The cafe was warm, the air scented with roasted beans and vanilla syrup. She arrived 5 minutes early and chose a seat by the window. When the door opened, she glanced up and froze. It was him. The man from the gala, still calm, still composed, though now dressed in a simple gray sweater and dark jeans. His presence seemed to draw the room's attention without him trying. He noticed her immediately and offered a faint, polite smile before walking over. "Miss Carter," he said, his voice steady but softer than the night before. "I hope you do not mind me joining you." Lena blinked, words stumbling in her throat. You found me. You left your folder at the gala," he said, placing it on the table. "I thought you might need it." She glanced at the folder, her proposal for the charity client. "Thank you," she murmured. He sat across from her, folding his hands neatly. "I owe you an apology," he began. "I did not mean to put you in a difficult position last night." She managed a nervous laugh. "Difficult is one word for it. Half the city probably thinks I am someone's mistress now." His lips curved into a faint smile. "Then let me correct the record. I only did it because no one else was stopping him. What he said to you was unacceptable." Lena looked down, fiddling with her coffee spoon. "You did not have to. I have been through worse." "Maybe," he replied. "But no one deserves humiliation. Not for being kind. Not for walking away from the wrong person." His words landed deeper than she expected. For a moment they just sat in the hum of the cafe, surrounded by the hiss of milk steamers and quiet chatter. Finally she gathered her courage. "Who are you really?" He hesitated, studying her face before answering. "My name is Adam Hale. I work with a few local foundations." "Foundations," she repeated. "So you are in marketing." "Something like that," he said, deflecting gently. "We build community programs, fund small nonprofits. I wanted to ask if you would help us design our next campaign." She blinked, taken aback. "You want to hire me. Your brochure ideas were thoughtful. I read them last night." "You read them?" "I had some time," he said lightly, and she realized with surprise that he was trying to make her comfortable. A strange warmth filled her chest. For months people had treated her like background noise. Adam somehow made her feel seen. She nodded slowly. "All right. I will do it." His smile was brief but genuine. "Good. Then we are partners." As they stood to leave, he handed her a small gold badge with the foundation's logo embossed on it. "This is your pass for next week's event," he said. She turned it over in her hand and frowned slightly. "It looks expensive." He met her eyes. "Keep it. It suits you better than it ever suited me." He walked away before she could answer, leaving her standing there, the badge warm in her palm. That night, back in her apartment, Lena pinned the badge to her corkboard beside her sketch of a heart-shaped logo. She smiled faintly. For the first time in a long while she felt something new: hope. What she did not know yet was that Adams Foundation was not just another charity group. It was the front face of Hale Industries, one of the most powerful corporations in the city. And the man who had kissed her to protect her name was its Millionaire CEO. The following week moved faster than Lena expected. Between designing new layouts, revising copy, and attending endless meetings, she barely had time to breathe. Adams' Foundation project was larger than she imagined. Its goal was to rebuild youth centers in poor neighborhoods across the city. She worked from a shared office space surrounded by other freelancers, but Adam often stopped by quietly offering coffee or checking on progress. He never acted like a man above others. When staff greeted him with respect, she assumed it was because of his calm leadership, not power. He was always composed, never demanding, always listening. Still, there was something in his tone, a quiet authority, that made people straighten their posture when he spoke. One afternoon, as they reviewed photos for the campaign, Lena noticed a small scar near his wrist. "That looks like it hurt," she said, before realizing how personal it sounded. Adam smiled faintly. "A long time ago. It is a reminder of when I worked in construction. I learned early that hands are meant for building, not breaking." She studied him for a moment, sensing layers she could not name. "You have changed a lot, I guess." He nodded once. "Change is the only way forward." There was something almost lonely in his eyes, the kind of solitude that comes from living too many lives at once. By the end of the week, they finished the first draft of the campaign. The foundation's board meeting was scheduled for Friday evening at the same hotel where the gala had been held. The memory made her stomach twist, but Adam insisted she attend. "I want them to see who made this possible," he said simply. The night of the meeting, Lena wore a simple black dress and carried a folder filled with her designs. As she entered the lobby, the echoes of that humiliating gala still haunted her steps. But when she saw Adam waiting near the elevator, her chest eased. He looked at her with quiet reassurance. "You belong here," he said softly. The meeting was long but successful. The board members approved her work unanimously. When it ended, Adam walked her out to the quiet corridor overlooking the city lights. "You did great tonight," he said. "Thank you," she replied. "I honestly could not have done any of this without you." He looked away for a moment as if searching for words. "You would have found your way. You just needed a reason to believe again." The silence between them grew heavier yet not uncomfortable. The city glowed beneath them, each light flickering like a small heartbeat. "Adam," she said after a pause, "why do you care so much about this project, about people like me?" He smiled gently, the kind of smile that carried both gratitude and sadness. "Because I used to be one of them. I grew up a few blocks from the old factory district. I know what it feels like to have doors closed before you even knock." Her breath caught. "You are serious." "Completely." He leaned on the railing, eyes distant. "My father left when I was 9. My mother cleaned offices. I promised myself that if I ever made it out, I would open doors for others." Something inside Lena shifted. The man who had rescued her in front of hundreds was not just kind. He was human, imperfect, real. As they walked toward the elevator, she caught her reflection in the glass, her posture straighter, her expression softer. For the first time, she no longer saw the girl who had been mocked. Outside, the wind picked up, scattering faint snowflakes through the night. Adam held the door for her, his coat draped over his arm. "Let me drive you home," he offered. She hesitated but nodded. The car was quiet, the hum of the engine filling the space between them. When they stopped at her apartment, she turned to thank him. "Good night, Adam." He met her eyes, voice low. "Good night, Lena. And thank you for reminding me what kindness looks like." When he drove away, she stood on the sidewalk, watching the taillights fade into the dark, her heart strangely full. She could not have known that by morning her world and the truth about Adam Hale would begin to change forever. The next few days blurred into each other like pages turning too quickly. Lena worked long hours at the foundation office, fine-tuning every piece of the campaign. She had never been more inspired. The team looked up to her now, and Adam's quiet encouragement made her feel capable in ways she had forgotten existed. Each morning she found a cup of coffee waiting on her desk, always the same order, 1 sugar, no cream. He never mentioned it, and she never asked, but she always smiled when she saw it. It was such a small thing, yet it meant someone noticed her. On Wednesday, Adam invited her to visit one of the new community centers being renovated with the foundation's funds. The building was old, its brick walls faded, but children's laughter echoed through the halls as volunteers painted murals on the walls. Lena watched as Adam knelt beside a young boy, helping him hold a paintbrush steady. "You are good at this," she said, standing behind him. He chuckled. "I was a terrible painter as a kid, but I like watching people build something with their hands. It reminds me why we started." "Started?" she asked. He hesitated, then said quietly, "The foundation was my mother's idea before she passed away. She used to say that kindness should leave footprints. So I built something that could carry her name forward." Lena's chest tightened. "She would be proud of you." He looked up at her, then eyes softer than she had ever seen. "I hope so." That evening they stayed late at the center, organizing supplies. At one point the power flickered out for a few minutes. They stood by the window, moonlight spilling across the floor, their shadows touching. The silence between them was fragile but full of meaning. Neither dared to speak aloud. When the lights came back on, Lena stepped back, flustered. "I should lock up." Adam smiled faintly. "Of course. I will walk you to your car." As they stepped outside, a chill wind swept through the street. Lena's hair blew across her face, and Adam, without thinking, reached out and gently tucked it behind her ear. For a moment their eyes met. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For being you," she said softly. "For making people feel seen." He paused, his expression unreadable. Sometimes the people who need to be seen most are the ones who hide behind their own kindness. The words lingered in her mind long after she got home. She lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand why her heart felt heavier and lighter at the same time. The next morning, an invitation arrived in her email, an exclusive event to announce the foundation's largest partnership yet. Her name was listed among the speakers. At the top of the list was Adam Hale, chairman, Hale Industries. Lena froze. The name struck her like thunder. Chairman. She read it again, blinking, trying to make sense of it. How could the man who spent afternoons painting walls with children be the head of one of the biggest corporations in the country? Her pulse quickened. Memories of that first night at the gala came rushing back, the way people had looked at him, the respect, the whispers. She had missed the signs. All of them. She grabbed her phone, scrolling through articles online. The first headline made her heart sink. Adam Hale, the reclusive CEO who donates millions anonymously through his foundation. Her mind raced. Every smile, every quiet gesture, every word he had spoken, none of it had been casual. He had known exactly who he was and exactly what he was doing. By evening she could not take it anymore. She called him. He picked up almost immediately. Lena, his voice was calm, familiar, grounding. I was going to tell you when she interrupted, her voice trembling. Before or after the world found out who I have been working for, there was silence on the other end. Finally, he said quietly, I never meant to deceive you. I just wanted you to know me before you knew my name. She closed her eyes, tears burning behind them. You should have trusted me enough to tell me the truth. I did trust you, he said. That is why this hurts. She could not answer. She hung up and sank into the couch, the badge he had given her glinting on the table beside her. For the first time in months she felt small again, not because of what others said, but because of what she could no longer believe. The man who had rescued her that night was still her hero, but now he was also the man who had lied. The night felt endless. Lena sat in her apartment, surrounded by silence, the city lights bleeding faintly through the curtains. On the coffee table lay the gold badge, the one Adam had told her to keep. It glimmered softly under the lamp, mocking her confusion. She wanted to throw it away, but her hand would not move. Her mind replayed every moment, the gala, the cafe, the community center. Every gesture of kindness now tangled with doubt. Had he been sincere, or had it all been part of some polished image for his company? The thought made her chest ache. Her phone buzzed again. A message from Adam. Please come tomorrow. Let me explain in person. She did not reply. But sleep never came that night, and by dawn her heart had already decided what her pride would not admit. She needed to see him, if only to close the chapter properly. By the time she arrived at the foundation headquarters, the morning sun had turned the glass building into a mirror. She almost turned back when she saw the security guards at the door, but they greeted her by name and led her upstairs. When the elevator doors opened, she found Adam standing by the window, city skyline behind him. He looked tired, his usually calm expression shadowed by something heavier. Thank you for coming, he said quietly. I almost did not, she answered. I would have deserved that. For a moment neither spoke. Then he turned to face her fully. Lena, I never meant to lie. When we met at the gala, I was not there as a CEO. I was there because one of my partners was trying to shut down the foundation. I saw what that man did to you, and I could not just stand there. She folded her arms, fighting the tremor in her voice. You could have told me afterward. I wanted to, he said. But the more I talked to you, the more I wanted to be someone normal in your eyes. Not a name, not a headline. That is not fair, she said, her voice breaking. You wanted honesty from me, but you were wearing a mask the whole time. He stepped closer, careful, almost hesitant. I know, and I am sorry. I wanted you to see the man I try to be when no one is watching, the one who still believes that people can be kind without expecting anything back. She looked away, tears catching the light. Do you even understand what it feels like to be small, to have people laugh when they see your clothes, your shoes, your life? Adam's voice softened. Yes, I do. She met his eyes, searching for proof. When I was 17, he said, I stood in the rain outside a restaurant, waiting for a job interview that never happened. I remember watching the people inside, thinking I would never belong. The truth is, I have spent most of my life trying to build something that made me feel worthy of walking through those doors." The words cut through her anger like light through fog. For a long moment she said nothing. Finally she sighed. "You should have trusted me enough to tell me all of that before I had to find out from the internet." "I know," he said simply, "and I will spend as long as it takes to earn that trust back." He reached into his pocket and set a small envelope on the table between them. "This is the grant proposal for the center. It will move forward, whether or not you stay." She looked at it, then back at him. "You are letting me go. I am giving you a choice," he said gently. "Because real respect means freedom." For a moment she wanted to run to him to forget everything and start over. But instead she nodded slowly and turned toward the door. "Goodbye, Adam." He did not stop her. He only said, "Goodbye, Lena. Take care of your heart." When the elevator doors closed behind, her tears finally slipped down her cheeks. She did not know whether they were from anger, sadness, or relief. That evening she walked along the river, the wind cool against her face. Her phone buzzed again, messages from sponsors, colleagues, people congratulating her for the campaign's success. But she did not answer any of them, for now she just needed silence. Across the city in his glass office, Adam watched the same sunset she did, his reflection faint in the window. He held the second badge, the twin of the one she still kept, and whispered to himself, "Kindness should leave footprints." Neither of them knew it yet, but their paths were far from over. 2 weeks passed. The air grew colder and the city slipped quietly into late autumn. Lena filled her days with work, taking smaller projects just to stay busy. But no matter how many designs she finished or clients, she met something inside her remained heavy. Every morning she looked at the gold badge still pinned to her corkboard. She told herself she should throw it away, yet she never did. It had become a strange reminder of humiliation, of rescue, of everything she wished she could forget. Her mother noticed the change. One evening, while Lena was visiting the hospital, her mother reached for her hand. "You have been quiet lately," she said softly. "Did something happen?" Lena smiled weakly. "Nothing I cannot handle." Her mother studied her face. "You know your father once said that honesty is not weakness. It is the only way to stay free." The words stung. Lena nodded and kissed her mother's forehead before leaving. Outside the hospital she paused under the streetlights, watching her breath form small clouds in the cold. For the first time she admitted it to herself. She missed Adam. Meanwhile, across town, Adam buried himself in work. Meetings, board calls, endless reports. The foundation project had expanded faster than expected, but even success felt hollow. He tried to focus on numbers and schedules, yet every time he walked past the children's murals or saw the volunteer lists, he thought of Lena. One afternoon his assistant entered with a file. "Mr. Hale, the partnership presentation with the city council is tomorrow. Would you like Miss Carter to attend? Her name is still listed as consultant." Adam looked up sharply. "She has not been with us for weeks." "Yes, but the council specifically requested her. They said she represents the human side of the project." He hesitated. "Send her the invitation. But make sure she knows there is no obligation." That night Lena received the email. She read it 3 times before closing her laptop. Her heart ached at the thought of seeing him again, but the project meant something more than pride. It was about the kids, the families, the idea she had helped build. The next day she walked into the City Hall conference room. Heads turned as she entered, not because of her dress, but because of the quiet confidence she carried. Adam was already there, standing near the screen, explaining the final phase of the foundation's expansion. When he saw her, he stopped mid-sentence. For a moment no one spoke. Then Lena smiled faintly and said, "Please continue, Mr. Hale. I am just here for the community section." He gave a small nod, his composure returning. The presentation went perfectly. She spoke passionately about the importance of rebuilding safe spaces for underprivileged youth, and the council members applauded when the vote passed unanimously. Afterward, as the room emptied, Adam approached her carefully. "You did great," he said. "So did you," she replied, keeping her tone even. "Congratulations on the approval." He exhaled slowly. "Lena, thank you for coming. I did not expect you would." "I did not expect I could," she admitted. "But this project matters. It is bigger than both of us." Adam looked at her for a long time, something unspoken in his eyes. "You are right," he said finally. "That is exactly why I wanted to make sure it lived on with or without me." She frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" He handed her an envelope. My resignation. The board will finalize it next week. I am stepping away from Hale Industries and the foundation. It needs someone who still believes in people more than profit. Her chest tightened. You cannot just leave. I already did the moment I lost your trust, he said quietly. Everything after that was just paperwork. She opened the envelope, reading the signature at the bottom. It was real. Adam, this is not what I wanted. I know, he said softly. But maybe it is what we both need. For a few seconds, the world around them went still. Then a voice from the hallway called Adam's name, breaking the moment. He gave her one last look. Take care, Lena. She wanted to say something, anything that could undo the distance between them. But the words would not come. When he walked away, she stood there holding the envelope, her reflection caught in the glass wall. Behind her, the city stretched endlessly, a maze of lights, promises, and unfinished stories. For the first time since that night at the gala, she realized what she truly wanted was not just justice or pride. It was peace, and perhaps forgiveness. A few days later, the official announcement hit every news outlet. Adam Hale had stepped down as CEO of Hale Industries. The media speculated endlessly about his reasons, but Adam refused interviews. He had disappeared from the public eye entirely. Lena read the headlines in disbelief. She had thought maybe he exaggerated when he told her, but seeing it in print made it real. The man who had built an empire had walked away from it, and she could not shake the feeling that she was somehow the reason. At the foundation office, everyone whispered about what would happen next. The board voted to keep the project running under a new director, and to Lena's surprise, they offered her the position. You were the heart of this campaign, one member said. You understand its purpose better than anyone. She hesitated but accepted. It was not ambition that drove her, it was gratitude. The project had changed her life, and she wanted to honor what it stood for, no matter what had happened between her and Adam. Weeks turned into months. The city's first renovated youth center opened on a bright spring morning. Children ran through the courtyard, splashing paint on the walls, laughter echoing through the building that once stood abandoned. Reporters came and went, but Lena stayed in the background quietly, making sure everything ran smoothly. Still, sometimes when she walked through the halls, she felt his presence. The smell of new paint, the faint echo of his voice saying, "Kindness should leave footprints," it lingered like a ghost of memory. That evening, after the ribbon-cutting ceremony, she found herself alone in the art room, wiping dust off one of the display frames. There, behind the glass, someone had placed 2 gold badges, the exact design she remembered. One was hers. The other, slightly scratched, was his. Her breath caught. Beneath them was a small plaque for those who built with kindness when no one was watching. She touched the glass, tears filling her eyes. "You really left your footprints," she whispered. Outside, the sun began to set, casting a soft golden light through the windows. The children's laughter faded into the distance, replaced by the soft hum of the city. For the first time in a long while, Lena felt calm. The pain had not vanished, but it had transformed into something quieter, deeper. As she locked the center's doors for the night, her phone buzzed. It was a short message from an unknown number. "Congratulations on today's opening. You made it happen. A.H." Her lips curved into a trembling smile. She typed back only 3 words. "Thank you, Adam." And for the first time since that night at the gala, her heart felt light again. Spring slipped into summer before Lena even realized it. The foundation had grown stronger, new donors arriving every week, and the community centers across the city began to thrive. Children laughed again, families gathered again, and the walls that once carried only silence now carried hope. Still, there were moments late at night after the noise faded when Lena would think of Adam. She wondered where he had gone, if he was happy, if he ever regretted leaving. The message he sent months ago remained pinned to her phone's home screen. She had never deleted it. One morning as she arrived at the office, her assistant hurried over. "Lena, there is a letter for you," she said. "It came by courier. No return address." The envelope was heavy, embossed with gold edges. Inside was a single handwritten note and a folded newspaper clipping. The note read, "For every story that ends, there is another waiting quietly to begin. I hope this one brings you peace. A.H." The clipping showed a photograph of a newly launched art exhibition titled "The Art of Kindness." It was sponsored anonymously, but the curator's quote at the bottom made her heart stop. "This exhibition is dedicated to the woman who reminded us that compassion is the greatest form of courage." Lena stood frozen, her eyes burning. She knew it was him. The gallery was only a few miles away, and though her schedule was packed, she went that evening. The moment she stepped inside, she was surrounded by warm light and soft piano music. Every wall held paintings made by the children from the Foundation's programs, bright colors, uneven brushstrokes, and stories of healing. Near the center of the hall stood one larger painting, a mural of a woman standing in the rain holding a golden badge close to her heart. Beneath it was a small brass plaque engraved with her name. Tears blurred her vision. She turned when she heard quiet footsteps behind her. Adam stood a few feet away, dressed simply, his expression calm, but his eyes filled with something unspoken. "I was not sure you would come," he said gently. "I almost did not," she whispered, "but I had to see if it was really you." He smiled faintly. "It is me, though I am trying to live a little slower now." "You left everything," she said softly. "Why? Because everything means nothing if you lose the reason you started," he replied. "I spent years building walls to protect what I had, and it only made me lonely. You reminded me that giving is not about control, it is about faith." Lena blinked away tears. "I do not know what to say." "Then do not say anything," he said. "Just tell me if you are happy." She nodded slowly. "I think I am." "And you, for the first time, yes." He stepped closer, holding out something small wrapped in velvet. When she opened it, she found a pendant shaped like the Foundation's emblem, a heart formed from two hands. "It is not an apology," Adam said. "It is a promise, for everything that is still ahead." She looked up at him, her voice trembling. "You never stopped believing, did you?" He smiled, eyes shining. "No, I just had to learn to believe differently." The piano music swelled softly around them. For a long moment they stood there in the middle of the gallery, two people who had broken and rebuilt themselves in the same light. And when Adam reached out his hand, Lena took it, no hesitation, no fear, just quiet understanding. Outside, the evening sky turned gold, and through the glass walls of the gallery their reflections blended with the painted mural behind them, two figures standing together, proof that kindness really does leave footprints. A few months later, summer melted into the soft colors of autumn again. The air carried the scent of leaves and rain, and for the first time in years Lena felt completely at peace. The Foundation continued to flourish under her leadership, now supported by schools, artists, and small businesses across the city. What had once been one man's vision had become a living movement, one built on kindness, honesty, and second chances. Adam returned quietly, not as a CEO but as a mentor. He taught workshops for young entrepreneurs, showing them that success meant nothing without compassion. Sometimes he would stop by the community centers bringing boxes of art supplies or helping children with their drawings. He never announced himself, never took credit. He simply showed up smiling content just to belong. On the anniversary of the Foundation's first project, Lena organized a small celebration at the same community center where it all began. The place glowed with warm lights, laughter spilling out into the evening streets. Volunteers, families, and children gathered their joy, filling every corner of the building. As the crowd cheered, Lena took the stage. Her voice trembled slightly, but her words were steady. "1 year ago, I stood here afraid, uncertain if I belonged. But today I know that kindness builds more than walls, it builds people. It builds hope." Applause thundered through the hall. When she stepped down, Adam was waiting near the back, a soft smile on his face. "You were perfect," he said quietly. She laughed. "I almost tripped on the microphone cord." He chuckled. "That just made it real." They walked outside together, the night air cool and calm. The city lights shimmered in the distance, and the same river that had once carried her tears now reflected gold and silver. Lena turned to him. "Do you ever miss that old life?" "The suits, the meetings, the titles," Adam shook his head. "Not even for a second. This life feels earned, and I would not trade that for anything." She smiled, looking down at the pendant around her neck, the one he had given her at the gallery. "You kept your promise." "And you kept your heart," he said. They stood quietly, hand in hand, as laughter echoed from the open doors behind them. For a long moment neither spoke. There was nothing left to prove, nothing left to hide. Only peace. As the wind rustled through the trees, Lena whispered, "Kindness should leave footprints." Adam smiled. "It already has." And under the gentle glow of the city lights, the woman who once stood humiliated now stood loved, respected, and free, proof that even the deepest wounds can lead to something beautiful when met with courage and compassion. The story had begun with a single act of rescue. It ended with redemption and a love that asked for nothing but truth.